here. Thank you so much for allowing Brit+Co to interview you and talk about this initiative that you have with Kleenex for their 100th anniversary, which that is a really big deal.
I
The fact
know.
that it's been 100 years.
Believe it?
Yeah, so just want to jump right in. You're a former teacher, so want to know what initially drew you in about this initiative and how is clinics thinking about giving back to underprivileged schools?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. And I think, first of all, 100 years of Kleenex was remarkable to me. It's like feels like they've, of course, though, right? They've been here all along. And I think one of the things that I reflected on is that when, as a teacher, but also as a student and now as a mother, like on the back to school list, what classrooms need are pencils, papers, and Kleenex because schools are a place where a lot happens. Kids are learning. They're also having those moments of emotional heartbreak. They're sick sometimes. They're carrying the burdens from home. They're learning how to be part of a team, and teachers are at the core of all of that. And so, what I love about Kleenex is that in honor of their 100th birthday, they're giving back, and they're giving back to the place where they're in quite often, which are schools. So they know, like I know as a teacher, that teachers are spending their own money to buy materials for their classrooms, that also they have a million jobs in one. It's such a difficult job. So in honor of their 100th birthday, they partnered with Donors Choose, which is an incredible organization, to give $100,000 to one remarkable school and $4,000 to 100 schools, which is incredible, to help with materials and resources. And so when I heard that, I was, wanted to be on board because I know that we need to be giving back to our classrooms as much as possible.
Mhm, mhm. And speaking of back to school season, which is just really busy for everyone from teachers to students, and then it trickles down to parents. With you having three kids, how in the world are you prepping for back to school
Yeah.
season? And like, what are your must have essentials?
Yeah. Well, I think, well, Kleenex. um, there's lots of tears for parents and kids both. I mean, I think transitions can be tricky for parents, for kids, for teachers, but it's also such an exciting time. And so I think we try to lean into that excitement and also just keep really open communication about the harder parts, the change. Because change is hard for kids in particular, moving to different schools, moving to different grades, moving on to middle school. And so I think one thing we try to do is just talk about it, like not too much so that we're still enjoying whatever's happening, but especially in the, you know, days before, talk with our kids about how they're feeling. And I think the other thing is that we try to listen and not fix. So the other day, Hal said, "When is school starting?" I said, "Well, we've still, we got a little time, but it's starting soon, buddy." And he was like, "Well, I'm nervous." And instead of saying like, "Well, you don't need to be nervous," or "How can we help you not be," it's just like, totally, I get that. Like I've been nervous before things like that too. It's normal to be nervous. A lot of kids feel nervous. So to kind of make whatever they're feeling feel validated and not try to like either downput it or make it go away because those are his feelings. So I feel proud that he feels comfortable even expressing that. um so I think mainly it's communication. We're a very verbal family is what we do at this stage. Of course we try to like get organized and get the backpacks ready, and the sort of hacks for day in and day out is to lay out their stuff the night before and try to be as prepared as they can before they go to bed. I mean, I do that and I sleep better. I have all my notes by the doors. I have my workout clothes laid out. I have my bag packed. I have all that stuff I try to do before I go to sleep. And then we try to just get them back on that early to bed, early to rise schedule, which none of us have been on, except me. um, that, we try to get that kind of going, but I also not feel too bad if the first couple weeks are tricky because that's how transitions are.
Yeah. And that's amazing advice as someone who has a 3-year-old who we're
Ooh,
yeah,
yeah,
transitioning to out of the daycare
yeah,
environments, preschool, and relying on a lot of Kleenex, like you
yeah,
said.
totally. But also it's like probably they're used to staying up late in summer because it's a little lax. And then all of a sudden, and they're like, wait, why do we have to go to bed? I mean, all of that is, it's just about communicating and letting them know, well, now, you have to wake up early. And even if like the first couple weeks, it's harder to make them go to bed, it gets there. Like just tell yourself, we're gonna get there. And sometimes we do and sometimes we don't.
Yeah, it's just going with the flow and being okay with it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can,
totally.
yeah,
Totally.
and I know that you and your sister Barbara wrote "I Loved You First," and this is your third children's book. So, want to know just kind of, do you plan on writing more children's books to kind of like serve as kind of like a conversation between parents and their children, and also
Ah,
do you see it as
I'm
being
actually, as we talk, I'm signing the our next children's book. So yes, we have another children's
okay?
book. I know I'm like, can you see into my office? We have we have another children's book coming out. It's coming out I think in the spring. We're not exactly sure when yet, but this is more of like a love letter from mothers to their children. It's like more of those types of books that you read and you're weeping because it's about how deep a mother's or a parent's love is for their kids.
Yeah, understood. And I can imagine "I Loved You First" is going to help,
Yeah.
children, especially with that back to school and that transitioning. Like, okay,
Yes.
going to school, it doesn't mean that I'm punishing you because we're
Yeah.
changing our schedules. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about that.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. And speaking of books, we're actually seeing how, not just with getting kids excited about reading books, but there's been like an insurgence of book clubs, especially you have your book club, which we've written about on site. We love keeping up with it every month. What's the last book that read?
Yeah. Well, I'm reading for our book club usually a year in advance. So the last book that I read, I can't even tell you because it's something that we'll be choosing for next summer's book club book. But the last book that I recommended is this incredible book called Wedding People. And it's by Allison Espak. She is so brilliant and sort of capturing both like the fun and the frivolous and the kind of rom-com with the brilliance and sort of dark comedy that I love. It's super smart, but it's also super fun, and you'll read it in a weekend. I loved it. So look out for the Wedding People. And then also another book we chose this summer that everybody that I recommend it to writes me, and they're like, "Oh my God, this book changed me," is called All the Colors of the Dark. And
Mm.
it's by a writer named Chris Whitaker. And it's more of a mystery, but it's genre bending. It's also a love story and a story of a small town and a story of an enduring friendship. So both of those are ones I highly, highly recommend.
Mm. And I have been reading All the Colors of the Dark. I love a
Is
good mystery thriller,
Yeah,
especially in the summertime. I mean, I know everyone's like, cozy season is coming. I'm like, listen, I can read
yeah,
3 books
I
every
know.
season.
I know. Well, actually, when I read it, I was like, is this a fall book? But I'm also not the publisher of it. So I was like, okay, you'll publish it whenever you want. But it has the cozy. I think it will sell well through the fall. It's still on the New York Times bestseller list. And we announced it in July, but I feel like it will continue to sell well because it does have that cozy season
Yeah,
vibe to it for sure.
definitely, definitely. And I just have like a few rapid questions for
Okay,
you
cool.
regarding books. I know you read a ton of books, but I would love to know what's the book that you would recommend that has like the best life lessons in it?
Mm. This is kind of a strange one because it's fiction, and upon reading the synopsis you might be like, what? But it's a book called Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson, and it's about love and what kids need, which is just mainly to be seen and to be loved. But if you read the synopsis you're going to be like, wait, what? Because it's really about twins who burst into flames when they're feeling things. So it's kind of odd, but it's my husband read it too, and he was like, "Gosh, this is like the best book about love and parenting that I've ever read."
Hmm. And speaking of parenting, what book would you recommend that parents read with their children as they get ready for back to school season?
Well, if you want to cry your eyes out and grab a million Kleenexes, which I love to do, I read Charlotte's Web to both of my eldest kids, and it's the most beautiful book. I mean, E.B. White had such a poetic way about writing. I mean, I think we all remember it from being in the library or possibly read it, but it's like poetry, and it's about friendship, and it's about seasons changing. It's about, obviously seasons of life changing too, and death, which I think, kids can take. There's so much heaviness that happens in our world, and they hear it and they feel it and they see it. So set that heaviness in a barn, and have them be animals and have it be about friendship. My husband came home from work when I was finishing it with my eldest daughter Mila, and he thought like something terrible had happened because we were both weeping. But it's just such a gorgeous book about all of these things that we have to deal with as humans.
Mhm. I love that recommendation. And what's the best book that you recommend that has like the best romantic story?
Mm. Well, I love a romance. 100 Years of Solid. No. Love in a Time of Cholera. Sorry, same author, different book. By Gabriela Garcia Marquez is like one of my favorite sort of epic romances. What else? I mean, I love Triangle because who doesn't? And and Judy Blume, obviously, her adult novel Summer Sisters is it's about friendship mainly, but it also just has this great love triangle, and it's so juicy and fun. Um, I love a romance, and I don't read enough of it. I need more of that in my life for sure.
I love romance. Well, which is funny because I know I just said I love thriller books, but I love romance.
I
And
know.
rom-coms are having like a huge thing right now, which I'm
Yeah.
excited about. I'm just excited
You
that
need to read Wedding People. You need to read Wedding People. It's so good, and it has a romance to it, but it's like not necessarily what you think would happen. Do you know what I mean? Or
yeah.
maybe you would know it would happen. I don't know, but it's just fun. It's just fun. I love a book like that, and that fits the bill.
That's next on my TBR list.
Yeah,
I have so many books that
I
I'm
know.
read, so
I
many
know. Well, you
books.
have a 3-year-old, so give yourself a break.
I am trying so
I
hard
know.
to
I know.
like
Well,
take
people
a
are like,
break.
"How do you have time to read?" And I'm like, "There's definitely days I don't, and that's
Yeah.
okay."
Yeah, totally, totally. And just, I'm excited, like I said, about this initiative that you have with Kleenex. And one last question, what do you hope that underprivileged schools and teachers,
Yeah.
students receive this year out of this initiative?
Well, I just hope that as many people as possible know about this initiative, and that people hear about it so that they can go to Kleenex100years.com to nominate a school of their choice, to get their school in the mix because $100,000 is life changing for a school. But also, I would just say, we can all give back. So I think asking your teachers of your kids or your grandkids or whoever it is, like, how can I help? What do you need this year? And that could be, material things like Kleenex and pencils and papers, or that could mean like going in once a week and stacking books. I think just saying, I want to partner with you. I'm here. What do you need from me? And you can also say, like, I don't have that much time, but I want to be a good partner. What can I do? I think so many times and I can speak to this as parents, tell the teachers what we need. Like, oh my gosh, meal list for backpack. Can you help me get it? Or what's the homework tonight? Or how's Mila doing? It's like it needs to be a two-way street because teachers have so much on their plates. So I would just take Kleenex's advice, first of all, nominate, but also follow up, and maybe go do clear the list of other teachers too in honor of these schools because kids have so much potential, and teachers are doing incredible things, so we just need to be there for them.
Yeah, and I love that as someone who had great relationships with my teachers growing
Yeah.
up, being in the library and just talking to my
Yeah.
teachers, and that kind of also being a safe space for kids. I really am proud of the way that Kleenex is giving
Me
back
too.
to
I think it's
underprivileged
amazing.
schools. Yeah, so I I'm really excited for you all, and I cannot wait to see what comes of this partnership.
Oh,
And
thank
I
you.
wish you all the best of luck. And thank you so
Thank
much
you,
again for
Jasmine.
Brit+Co talk to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I love talking with you. You were awesome. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you. Thank you.
Bye, Jasmine.